everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I am finally going to be doing my marketing major Q&A video, which I've been talking about doing forever now, and finally doing it. So I have about 10 questions, I believe, 11 questions that were all comments on my past marketing videos. I'll have a link down below to my marketing series playlist if you want to see those other videos, because I do talk about some of these questions that I'm answering now a little bit more in depth in some of those videos. But let's just get right into the questions. So the first question was from someone thinking about going into marketing or business in the future. They said, I know I want to go into the business aspect and professional communications caught my attention, but I'm lost as to how it works in the aspect of, do I have to have a following to promote and talk about the products, or would I be doing it behind a business platform? And professional communications is one of those majors that I feel like no one really knows what it is until they either know someone in it or they like really look into it, because it literally sounds like all you do is talk in this program. But I've actually taken a lot of professional communications classes myself because I really liked them. I found them really easy, to be honest. But to answer the question, you don't really need a following. That's not really what professional communications is. It's more so like the way it's taught in university. It's as if you were going to work for a business in a position where you would basically, most likely, this is like the standard sort of job at the end of it, would be you're kind of doing the communication for the business, which sounds so vague and like obvious, but sort of like things where you would do like press releases, or like when a company has to issue a statement, you'd write those, or writing emails to other brands that your brand is going to work with, and just sort of like things like that. Like when I took my first professional communications class, it was literally all just writing basically letters. We did one where we had to like write a cover letter for a job, and one where we had to write kind of like a letdown letter to someone, where basically we were saying that we couldn't host their event or whatever, and offering like solutions or like other alternatives and things like that. It was basically just learning how to communicate in a business sort of sense, as opposed to just being like, hey, we can't do that. It's just like learning how to use the right words and whatever, I guess, more so. And so it does sort of get lumped in with social media a lot, because obviously like a company's tweets are a big part of their sort of communication strategy or section of their business. And so I think from like a personal perspective, to work in that job, you don't need to have any kind of following yourself if you're working for a business, because it'll obviously be from their perspective, their account, whatever it is. It's just not entirely about like promoting products, really. That's more like advertising. It's a little bit more of just sort of literally communicating, like sending letters, sending requests for collaboration, sending all those things that need to go into it. Copywriting could probably also be a job that you go on to that. I actually just learned what that is, which is kind of embarrassing. I always thought it had something to do with books for some reason, but if you're a copywriter, you're basically the person who writes those sort of little blurbs that come next to products on like the Walmart website or whatever, or like on Amazon when there's that little blurb about the item. That's what a copywriter does, is they literally just write those things. And so that's definitely a job you could do probably after professional communications. So that's sort of what it is. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with your personal following. Question number 2 was, is marketing right for me, or is business right for me if I get anxious speaking in public? And this one I thought was really interesting, because I am like the queen of social anxiety. Like literally, I was that kid in high school that would get my mom to write my teacher's notes to get me out of doing presentations. And it only worked like half the time, but I was that kid. But anyway, marketing or business, if you get anxious public speaking, I don't think there's really much of a difference. Either way, there's probably at least going to be one presentation during your time in school that you have to do. The only way to really fully avoid that would be to just do it all online, which is what I ultimately ended up doing. Was I did the whole, like, I'd say the last 3/4 of my degree I did online, and because of that I only had to do one presentation, which was in my first year professional communications class. And other than that, there's not a whole lot of it. It's going to be about equal in marketing or business, depending on which one you pick. And I think that goes for just about any subject in university, I don't think there's one that you could really say will guarantee that you don't have to public speak. The only things I could think of that would probably not have anything like that would be like trade schools, but that would be like the only way to completely avoid it in post-secondary education. The third question was, is the math work in business marketing hard? And this was actually commented on my Ryerson video, and so I think they obviously probably meant Ryerson specific, and that's my only experience really, so that's what I'm going to talk about anyway. There's not a lot of math. Ryerson specifically makes you take a class, or not a class, they make you take a test your first year in university that's basically like high school math. I only took data management in grade 12 and I took mixed math in grade 11, and so I didn't have a super strong math background. I never took calculus or anything like that, and I wasn't that great at the math classes I did take. Marketing was a lot of numbers, but not necessarily a lot of math. For me, the biggest math problems I had in my degree time was with the finance courses that Ryerson makes you take. I just couldn't do those. I just passed the first one and I actually failed the second one and never ended up taking it again because it wasn't required when I transferred schools anymore. And so for me, those were the hardest ones. There was a lot of just complicated things that I'm sure if you were a finance major you'd be like, oh, that was so easy, but like not being a finance major, I had no idea what I was doing. And when it comes to math, I feel like the professor is really the important part. Like, you take stats classes at Ryerson as well as part of the marketing program, and there's one professor there, you can look it up on Rate My Prof, I'm sure you'll find her, and she literally is the best. Like, I didn't have to study at all for that class because she actually taught things in the lectures. Like, all you had to do was go to class and you would know how to do everything for the exams. And so I think when it comes to math, it comes down to the teacher. So I think really look at Rate My Prof and things like that before picking a class. I wouldn't not go into marketing because you don't like math, because like I said, I hate math, not very good at it, and I did fine in marketing. So I guess if that's what you want to do, like, don't let the math stop you. Next question was, what kind of research did you do into your program before you started, and what research would you do if you could do it again? This is like probably like one of my most like embarrassing university moments. Is I did absolutely no research at all into my school, into my program, into my campus, into anything. I literally picked Ryerson basically out of a hat the night you had to decide what school you were going to. Because at the time I wanted to go to a school that was not within a commuting distance to my house, but ultimately I couldn't afford to move there, and so I had to pick one of the schools in my area that I could commute to, and that sort of like left my options pretty limited, and none of them were schools that I really wanted to go to or cared about. So I literally picked Ryerson out of a hat. If you've been following my channel for a long time, you know that I actually started in hospitality and tourism management at Ryerson, and this is just like one of the examples of how little I knew going into this school, what I was getting into. Was I still remember going to the orientation and they were talking about how you needed 1,000 work experience hours in the hospitality industry to graduate from the program, and I had no idea that that was a requirement when I like accepted my offer. I ended up switching into marketing in my second year, and again, didn't do a ton of research. I obviously knew the school at that point because I had been there for a year, but I didn't super look in. I looked at like what classes I had to take, and that was about it. If I could do it again, I don't really have any regrets about how I switched programs, because I think that went as smooth as it could have gone and there wasn't a ton of research involved because I was already there. But if I could redo like my first acceptance into university, I 100% would have looked up pictures of the campus, looked up how I was going to get there. I didn't even look up like how I was going to get to this campus. It took me 2 hours to get to Ryerson every day when I went, and that's part of the reason I was so miserable. And I think if I had known that, it would have made my decision-making process a lot different. But like I said, I really didn't care. I didn't like any of the schools that were available to me, and so I wish I had looked into that more. I wish I had done like campus tours, or just like literally even looked up a Google image of the campus, because I think I could have taken one look at Ryerson and said, yeah, that's not for me. Like, and I didn't because I never looked it up. And so I wish I had done that. I wish I had looked into more like what the program actually required, what classes that school offered versus other schools, because at the time, like I said, I really wasn't interested. I really didn't care. I didn't put a lot of work or effort into it at all. And I think I could have had such a better experience if I had looked for a school that had courses that were more my interest and more which direction I wanted to go in, as opposed to just going, oh, they all suck, I'm just going to pick one and it doesn't really matter. So that's sort of my experience on that. I think literally everyone does more research than I did, and if I could go back, I definitely would have. Next question was, can you explain the difference between marketing and advertising? I've talked about this a lot in this sort of series that I've been doing, and the way I sort of look at it is marketing is a lot of the more behind the scenes stuff, the things that you don't see in public. It's all of the numbers and algorithms and like calculating survey results and seeing what people want and where to like put ads and things like that. Whereas I feel like advertising is more of like the part that you actually see. Like advertising is the literal billboard or like the bus shelter poster. Like advertising is all of the things you see and hear like out in public to promote something, whereas I feel like marketing is more of all of the planning that goes into where those things are going to go and what they're going to say or what they're going to promote and all of that. And that's sort of how I have been thinking about it recently. I'm sure someone's going to disagree with me on that, but that's just how I've been looking at it. The next question was, is it hard to study marketing? I'm worried because my background is not related to my major, and their background was in experimental science, which is kind of interesting. Personally, I don't think marketing's that hard. I think if you find it interesting, you're obviously going to find it a lot easier than someone who hates it and doesn't find it interesting. And so I think that's really what it comes down to, is if it's something that's interesting to you, then it won't be that difficult because you'll want to learn about the different things, and so that just makes it easier and more enjoyable. So that's sort of my stance on that one. Next one is marketing worth it? I noticed many degrees you can actually learn on your own in your free time. Is marketing one of them? What are some careers with a marketing degree, and can I work in other industries besides marketing? Honestly, I'm a big believer that you can learn anything online. I'm sure you can learn everything I learned in my marketing program online. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind you could literally just buy the textbook that I had to buy and you would have all the information that I have. I think when it comes to school, literally the whole point is just getting the paper at the end that says, oh yeah, they actually did it, whereas if you teach yourself on your own, there's nothing to really prove that you did, which is like dumb. Like, don't even get me started on the whole university system, but like, you could 100% learn an entire marketing degree's worth of stuff online, no doubt in my mind. Would it actually help you in a career? That's debatable. The next part of the question was, what are some careers with a marketing degree? Basically anything really, like related to advertising, campaigning, surveying, brand management. I actually talked about this a lot in one of my other videos, which again will be linked down below. There are pretty much a million different branches that you could go to with marketing, so I think just definitely look into your own interests. Social media, digital marketing, there's like all kinds of stuff you can look into. Can I work in other industries besides marketing? Obviously, absolutely. There are overlaps in pretty much every area of business. Like, you could definitely go into like graphic design if you have like a background in that as well as marketing, and like combine those sort of things. Like, there's definitely way like sort of polar opposite spectrums of marketing that you could get into, where you could be like the creating algorithms and analyzing data and all of that, or you could literally like be designing billboards. Like, I feel like there's such a big span in marketing that there's a million and one jobs that you could have. Next question was, does the prestige of the college one attends affect how firms, businesses, employers, etc. see a person's resume? For me, personally, again, I'm sure I'll probably get some, like, Harvard kid in my comments telling me that the prestige is all that matters. But no, I don't think your school name literally means anything, because what people want is experience. If you're going to, like, a community college or, like, a state university and you're competing against someone who's gone to Harvard for the exact same degree as you, and you have 5 years of experience in that field, even if it's only minorly related, you're probably going to get that job before the kid from Harvard does, because you can, like, anyone can get a degree. Like, that really doesn't mean anything. Anyone can get into any school. It's not a big deal. And experience shows that you can actually do what they need you to do. Like, you can graduate from Harvard with, like, a straight A and know absolutely nothing about what the job you're applying for involves. Whereas if you've worked in jobs sort of relating to that for years, you're going to be much more of an asset to that company than someone who only has, like, theoretical experience and has read a lot from a textbook. Like, that's not going to matter to them. So I always say that, like, if you're worried about your school name, then just get the experience, because it'll balance it all out in the end. Next question was, how hard do you think it would be to start your own business in marketing, and is that what you want to do? I've never really thought about it, to be honest. I'm sort of happy with where I am right now with my Etsy shop, my YouTube channel, and whatnot. I don't really consider my YouTube channel a job. Some of the questions I got were sort of implying that it was. I don't make nearly enough money to consider this a job as of yet, maybe like a side gig at best. But starting my own marketing business has never really been even like a thought that I've entertained. For me, like I said, my Etsy shop is like my baby right now, and obviously I use like marketing and stuff in that, but I've never considered starting a business to help other people market, if that makes sense. And so that's sort of where I'm at right now. I don't think it would be particularly hard to start a business. I mean, starting a business and having a successful business are two completely different things. I think you could definitely start a marketing business on your own. I don't know how difficult it would be to get that turning a profit, but I imagine there are people out there that are looking for services like that. Especially, I would say, if you have like good social media abilities, like if you know about like Facebook ads and all that stuff and you can do all of that, I think that would help a lot, because a lot of companies are looking to sort of get into that more, because that's obviously where all the people are now. So I think that would be a good way to go if you did want to do your own marketing business. The next question was, is it hard to make a lot of money with a marketing major, not including YouTube? And this was one of the other ones that I thought was funny, because it kind of implied that YouTube makes a ton of money, which, I mean, it does for some people, but I don't think it's hard. I think any business-related degree, you're not going to have a hard time finding people who make a ton of money in that industry, because it's a huge industry. There are a billion different jobs in it, and so you definitely could make a lot of money. I'm sure there's a lot of people that aren't making a lot of money, but you definitely could, like, if that's your end goal. And I wouldn't say that YouTube is really sort of the direction I would want to go with a marketing major. You definitely could do that, but I just sort of feel like the two are sort of, like, I wouldn't go to school and get a marketing degree so that I could have a YouTube channel, if that makes sense at all, because I don't think you need it to do YouTube, and I definitely don't think that that's the best way to make a lot of money with a marketing degree. And the last question is, what should you do with marketing when you get out of college, an internship? For me, I'm graduating right now, if you didn't know. When you're watching this video, I am writing my last final exam this coming Wednesday, and I'm really excited about that. I was supposed to be, basically, obviously, like, this is my last semester now, and so I was supposed to be graduating now, but I was supposed to be in Disney on another exchange program this summer, which obviously got canceled because of COVID and everything being shut down, including Disney. And so because of that, I've kind of just been hanging out here, but it's kind of worked out well for me, because I've gotten to try new things with my Etsy shop and do things that I definitely wouldn't have had time for had I gone there and come back. And so for me, I guess I was going to do an internship, but it wasn't really directly related to my degree. I would 100% recommend doing one related to your degree, like a marketing internship with a bigger company, if your end goal is working in an office job in marketing, because I think that that is a good way to get your foot in the door at a company. And I know a bunch of people that have ended up working full-time with companies they did internships with later on, and so it's definitely a good way to sort of get to know people and find sort of job options and see what's out there. And so that is all the questions for this video. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. I do new videos every single Sunday, and I will see you next time.